Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Team Tuesday, this week with Tomo Lennox. Hi Tomo, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. So on Tuesdays, we want to explore teams and their stories, how sometimes the stories get a little bit too complicated and lead to problems. But before we dive into that, share with us what might have been the book that most influenced you as a Scrum Master.
So I think the most influential book was Mary Poppendieck series, Lean Software Development. I've read so many books and I highlight my books. And sometimes I'll go 5 or 6 pages. Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, that's good. But I picked up my copy of Lean Software Development and I just like everything, every single word. Like, yes, that's it. Someone gets it finally. So those were incredibly inspiring. And then after that, I discovered Kanban. And so I love to read the Kanban books. Let's see. Lately, I've been reading Klaus Leopold's books. Rethinking Agile. Amazing. It's like, I wish I had thought of that.
Absolutely. For those of you who might not have yet read Lean Software Development by Poppendieck, what are like 1 or 2 main points that you took away from that book that you would like to share with our listeners?
So one of the things that's been good for me is that I've had a lot of lean background. Most people study Agile. Virtually every Scrum Master knows their Agile pretty well, and a good Scrum Master knows a lot of Agile, but not many people learn lean. So lean developed in Japanese manufacturing and has a whole lot of really useful techniques. Mary Poppendieck took the manufacturing lean that pushes consistency and inverted it so that it pushes diversity and improvement. So all those continuous improvement Kaizen things in lean, those stay, but the concept of waste is different. Instead of waste being, I take a big piece of sheet metal and take a little piece out of the middle of it, instead waste is specs you write that nobody reads. Right? Specs is this big report you do that doesn't add any value, right? All that lean stuff is really good. And one of the things I really like about her is that she emphasizes learning. A lot of the purists, say value is customer value, nothing else counts. But in lean software development, there's things you do to learn because you need to know.
Yeah, learning is a value, right? Like that's actually what we were talking about just yesterday with the idea of the demo. The whole purpose of that is to create a learning opportunity.
Yes, and that is very valuable. And one of the easy things to do wrong is not learn. You don't get better if you don't learn, and
Just
you're
do,
actually
right?
in a really high risk situation. You're just on the edge of failure if you don't learn.
Yeah, that is a very good point, right? That learning is there for us to try to avoid failure. And in software development, in product development, failure is not very hard to achieve. I mean, it doesn't take much to fail. So
That's right, especially when your eyes are closed.
yeah,
One
exactly.
wrong step and you're in the pit.
And the ability to create those learning loops or feedback loops, as we often call them in
Feedback
Agile,
loops.
is
Yes,
very
important lean
important.
concept.
Absolutely. So, Tomo, that was the book, of course, and now we turn our attention to the teams, which is the focus of our Tuesday episodes here. And we want to hear a story of a team. Tell us a little bit about their context so that we may know, is it a small, large team, what kind of project?
Sure.
And then walk us through those small incremental developments of that pattern or behavior that over time led to problems.
I have one story I'm especially proud of. I had 6 teams on a project, and they were good teams, but they weren't innovative teams. In fact, they were used to being told what to do. And when I said, "Okay, you're a team now, what do you want to do?" and they said, "What do you want us to do?" and then it went along. And so we talked about being a team that has multi disciplines in cross training and cross disciplines. And they nodded their heads. They said, "That sounds good." And then a month later, they didn't have any new skills. They're all in their own silos. And so I bought a bunch of little lapel pins with letters on them for the 6 skills that it identified in the project. And I stuck them in their cubicles back when we had cubicles. One letter for each of the skills they had, and everybody had just one except one person, I think. And I said, if you learn the other skill, I'll give you a lapel pin. And so one of the guys who did testing, decided that he wanted to develop something. And so we all helped him out until he developed something. He got his development pin. And then they realized you could get a pin for leading the stand-up. And so everybody wanted to lead a stand-up. Pretty soon I had all kinds of pins on the walls. I thought, yes, this is now across development team.
Yeah, absolutely. So that give I mean, at least to my mind, from that story come two big takeaways. Of course, first is that we need to make that cross-discipline training or cross-training really visible, like literally visible, because the teams themselves and the team members, they don't necessarily think about it as they go about their daily job, because they're doing their daily job, and for them it's like, I'm already busy. Why would I need to know something else, right?
And this gave them the flexibility so that we could really pursue things. I mean, where we had the classic Scrum where it was all planned, the sprint was all planned in the beginning, and then we just had to work it out waterfall style. Now we had a team where at the stand-up you can say, oh, it looks like this one's behind. Jim, why don't you go over there? And Mary, why don't you take this one? And we'll get through it. So flexible. It was wonderful.
Yeah, of course, then the other aspect for me that is very important is that small things we can do as Scrum Masters, like in this case, the lapel pins, as you were talking about, that, they're really, really small things, but in the system of the team, they can become signs of contribution, and of course, teams reward contribution, right? If somebody goes the extra mile, the others will be thankful and will appreciate that contribution, and those pins, as I can see it, they were a way to visualize the level of contribution of each team member.
And it was kind of gamification, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
On that same team, I tried to get them to experiment more, to try things. And one day, one of the testers decided that we had too many stand-ups, and she made the stand-ups Monday, Wednesday, Friday instead of every day of the week, and didn't even ask me, the Scrum Master, just did it. So I gave her a reward because for once she took some initiative, they did something. And so I gave her an award, a literal figure, a real award. And then after a week or so, they realized that didn't actually work so well, and they changed back, and I gave her a second award. But after that, everybody wanted to try something, and it was good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's these small interactions that actually motivate and actually push the team to try things that otherwise they wouldn't even feel the need to try.
And it's about experiments, right? Nobody knows what's right. If they knew it was right, they would do it. It's things you try. This might help. Let's find out.
Absolutely.
And you have to feel safe for that.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to talk about the next thing, which was swarming, but actually what you just pointed out is a very important aspect that as Scrum Masters, our job is to make sure that the team is able to do those things that you just said and others, so they feel safe to try those different things. Of course, there's a bunch of things that come into that, making sure that they know what success looks like, because nobody can try things if they don't know how to make it better, and so on and so forth. But that's a very important aspect. So tell us a little bit more about that, Tomo. Like, what were the things that you put in place deliberately and perhaps looking back in retrospect by accident to help the team feel safer?
So for me to tell them that it was good for them to try things and experiment, I don't know, it wasn't enough. I had to literally show them I wanted them to experiment. And so this thing that they did that was, kind of questionable, the fact that I would reward that was the signal that I was serious. I really, really wanted them to try things. And you had to show them that you were serious, and it was enough. After that, I got a lot more creative ideas. And then instead of me approving them, I could when they came to me with an idea, I can say, well, let's bring this to the team. Let's see what people think. And I could kind of wean them off of me so that they were trying things and testing them themselves, just where I wanted them.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it works.
Absolutely. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was this concept of swarming. You kind of alluded at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ability to cross-train, to have multiple skills, every person having multiple skills was a way for the team to be able to swarm, i.e. come together to solve a specific problem.
In most teams I work with have trouble swarming because they don't have that cross-training. And so it's just not possible for them to swarm. So you really have to work at them at trying things. They say, well, I don't know how to use the test system. So you just help out this time. Just you're on the task with this guy over here, and just learn. I don't care if you mastered or not. Just learn, and then the third time they can do it.
And for me, the most important part as a Scrum Master is that swarming is, or starting to prepare the environment so that people can swarm on a task, i.e. all come together and solve that task, is one of the first steps that we have to take in order to make the team self-reliant, right? Because if we don't have cross-trained individuals, somebody will need to coordinate everybody's time, right? I call it playing Tetris with people's time. Because otherwise they don't know, like, should I be doing this or should I be doing that? But if you are able to cross-train enough so that they can help each other, then they can take initiative and they can solve problems without us Scrum Masters being directly involved in how and when they solve those.
And a lot of the Scrum Masters I work with think it's their job to play that Tetris game, right? They think that's the job definition. Let's get some efficiency out of this team by packing all the things in. And I tell them, no, you're not supposed to do that. Stand back. And they say, what? You're crazy. That's the way it works. Read the Scrum guide. It doesn't say that.
And also because it's also much more efficient to have the team come up with the solutions and react quickly to the problems or the challenges that they are facing at that time.
That's right. Not the boss, not the Scrum Master who might think he's the boss.
Yeah, absolutely. Not the Scrum Master who might think he's the boss. Well said. Thank you for that, Tomo. Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.